Check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear me loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
Hey, Coach Jay, how you doing today? On
Doing
FOMC Thursday. Hope
doing good,
everything's
doing
good.
good. Happy FOMC Thursday. Of course, we had FOMC on a abnormal day. It's usually on a Wednesday, but something else took precedent yesterday, so we were looking at that instead. But happy FOMC day. Hopefully, all of you as traders made it out on the other side okay. Let us know in the chat how your FOMC day went. Were you up on the day, down on the day? If there's anything that you learned today, maybe you stayed flat and try to stay out of all of the noise. But welcome to At the Buzz Hour Market Recap. If this is your first time here, I'm Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul. The goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our job as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could have taken advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. I'm Coach Jay. I've been a Topstep Performance Coach since June of 2023, and that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep for a year and a half. I have about 4 decades experience in the futures market. I'm here to share some of my experiences and knowledge to help you become a better trader.
Awesome. Let's get into it. Coach, we had a rate decision today. We also had jobless claims out. If we're looking at news, jobless claims came in at 221,000. Forecast was 222,000. So a little bit better than expected. And then the rate decision came in as expected. 25 basis point cut is exactly what we got. And if we're looking at FedWatch, there is right now, the next rate decision we're getting is in about 40 days. We are seeing a 75% probability of another 25 basis point cut in December.
Well,
Go ahead, Coach.
well, it came out as widely expected. No big shock there. That puts the rate back down to 4.5. You know, it, there's really no alarm. It reflects their strategy to balance economic support with inflation control, with inflation being as expected. It gave a good chance for the Fed to cut rates and keep it, and possibly even cut it again in the next meeting. Um, I don't know what are the odds. What are they already talking about for next month?
75%, 75% currently. 75% probability of another 25 basis point cut, 25% of keeping the rates the same. We got a couple of comments out of Fed Powell. He said that they are pretty much in line with inflation expectations, getting it down to 2%. He was asked a couple of times if he was ever asked to leave his job, would he? The answer was no. You could tell he got annoyed by that. I think I would get annoyed by that too, right? You know,
Uh,
change a regime.
Um,
Someone's just asking you repeatedly, if someone asks you to quit your job, are you going to quit it? It's like you'll know when I quit my job, um, and, and not before that. I'm not going to make the announcement. It's an
yeah,
interesting question.
great point. Well, in the new regime, some of the insiders there want to eliminate the Fed. So,
Right.
um, well, he might be annoyed, but I can see why. If I was a reporter, I would ask that question because there's going to be some irritation between the two. Um, but well, how does that help me trade?
Not
It
too much, I
doesn't.
guess.
It doesn't at all.
Not too much, I guess. So let's talk about the charts. Really, what we care about here is the market's reaction to all of this news, right? We as traders, we get paid on execution of ideas, of trade ideas. So let's get into the markets. There are about 35 different markets we can trade with Top Step accounts. And I see our audience filling in a little bit. I was asking Andrew, our mod, where is everyone? And he said everyone might be out buying resets and new combines. Well, hopefully not. Hopefully, you didn't take this day and blow an account. But if you did, you know, determine what it is you can learn from a day like today to maybe not do that next time. Um, But let's look at the markets to the downside, we had lean hogs down 0.88%, the Nikkei down 0.77%, lean hogs down 0.88%, and nat gas down 1.78% for our biggest percentage mover to the downside. To the upside, we had silver up 2.53%, soybean oil up 4.23%, and copper, our biggest percentage mover to the upside, at 4.57%. Copper was one of the, and shout out to Paul H. In the chat. I saw Paul was on the London Open with Deanna and Coach Ray this morning and was in this copper long and called out specifically. He's like, hey, Coach Paul and Coach Jay have talked about this urgency trade. Shout out to Paul taking it. This was one of the best urgency trades that we saw on the day.
Wow.
If you're asking what that urgency trade is, yeah. I rewatched the London session this morning and saw Paul talking about it. The urgency trade is that first half an hour, VWAP leaving that range with a pretty steep angle and fairly early, and giving a couple of opportunities to buy. And it kind of never, I wonder if Paul, I know he had a trailing stop on the trade. I wonder if he ever actually got tagged out or was able to hold on to this, because there weren't many pullbacks in this move. And then again, being the top percentage mover on the day, presenting some real opportunities. Copper has been the market, a nice market to trade. Go ahead, Coach.
There's a V move if I've ever seen one.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think this was one of the biggest percentage movers to the downside yesterday, and said, okay, we'll give it all back. No problem.
Coach, can you make that chart bigger? Blow it out a lot, because I want to look at that candle on the low. You don't see that on the low of the move to the left. Yeah, the wick, the big wick. That
This was
is,
yesterday's close.
yeah. That used to be called an island reversal, where all that action on the low and it doesn't get filled in, and immediately it's like an exhaustion selling from yesterday. I don't see those too often. They used to, before they had 24-hour trading. You would that was a big move. But wow, that had mark that. Anytime you see that, and then you get an urgency, might want to make
Yeah.
a decision.
Once we got to close above that, you can call that the 3-bar reversal, whatever it is. But yeah, really nice move. One I wish I caught.
Jesus.
Because what a rally. But let's talk about the big four. We got the NASDAQ up 1.64%. Gold up 1.42% after that sell-off yesterday. The S&P's making new all-time highs, the NASDAQ as well. S&P's up 0.83%. And where are you, crude oil? Crude oil up 0.49% to round out our big four. We made new all-time highs in the NASDAQ and the S&P's. S&P's trading above 6,000. Let's go two screens. See if we can do this again. And look at these at the same time. I'm going to put this volume out of the way. Go to the S&P's over here and the NASDAQ over here. Coach, the NASDAQ for a little while was the weaker of the two markets. S&P's making all-time highs while the NASDAQ was kind of consolidating. We had the all-time high in the NASDAQ on this chart at 21, what was it? 214 half. And today's high was 21,253. So new all-time highs in the NASDAQ, new all-time highs in the S&Ps as well. S&P new high is 60,013. If you guys remember the last time we traded through $1,000 level or 1,000-point level in the ES, it was 5,000. We actually, on Topstep TV, MP took a 50 lot. That trade would still be in the profit with no drawdown if he was holding it now. So I asked him in the chat, are we now buying a 60 lot and holding it for 7,000? Which, it could be a couple of months or maybe a year on that trade. But if we hold it to 7,000, it's a $3 million trade. I think you just don't put a stop on it. Um, Again, that is not trading advice. Don't do that. But it worked the last time. It worked the last
With
time.
no guarantee of working the next time, but
Exactly.
it could happen.
Good.
Anything is
Definitely.
possible.
Anything is possible. Let's look at the moving averages. I'm looking at a daily chart right now. Strong on both of these, Coach. We talked about this 50-day moving average on both of these markets. We tested it. These charts look very similar, but we tested that 50 moving average, which is the purple line on these charts, and it held as a support. And again, these markets are trending really strong. We got pullbacks last week that looked pretty scary. Uh, but we talked about what that was, right? End of the month, we knew we had, big news coming up. Um, these markets are strong. These markets are strong. I keep hearing, Peter Tuchman when he's on Topstep TV talking about, there's the sellers come out of their cave for a day, and then they have to go back, and that's exactly what this looks like. What are you seeing in these equity charts, Coach?
What I always see, up and away. No, I
Yep.
just being all sincerity. Yeah. Um, like you said, we got it yesterday. We got over the 20-day moving average in the Nasdaq and didn't look back today. Just continuation. Um, I think we talked about it Monday when we looked at the daily. Uh, There was nothing bullish in the daily chart. Um,
Something bearish, right?
Not yeah, excuse me. Did I say yeah? I'm so bullish. I can't even say bearish. Oh yeah, single-minded purpose. So made for a nice trade, little lower, smaller range, but I mean it's got to take a breath. Um, with some actually was kind of subdued rally. It felt like a creeper rally. It was almost there wasn't much heat if you bought it. Is what I'm trying to say. Um, Now, with that said, if I was just price based, like, oh my God, it was up so big yesterday. It can't continue at this pace. I would have been afraid. I used to be afraid to buy it on a rally or just buy it. Being present centered, if it has the structure, you got to take the trade. I just can't say that. Tomorrow's action, well, we look at moving averages, we have structure. But in a day trading, if you have a process where you're looking to sell it or buy it, you can't be afraid of what happened yesterday. And that can really cause a lot of drama. Um, because I look at this rally this week. Every, this is price doesn't matter when there's allocation. I can't say it
What do you mean
doesn't
by that,
matter.
Coach?
Well, I really don't. It's just price doesn't matter, but price alone can be very can cause a lot of anxiety. How can I buy it up here at 6,000? It was 580 yesterday, right? Stuff like that. If that's front and center of your mind, it's going to it'll cause drama. Like I can't buy this here. But if your structure, the structure of you're looking, you're day trading, and you get a buy or a sell, got to take the trade. And
I
today
took
was
a I
one of the
did take a short in the Nasdaq actually off of this price action here, and I think I said it. I took it during slow markets yesterday. It's like I took it with micros and looking for a potential retracement of this move. But yes, this is a very strong trend. My playbook gave me a signal to take a short, so I took it. I got stopped out for a loss on that trade, a manageable loss, and then it was hey, get on the right side of the get on the right side of the markets. These things are just going up. So flipping that, and the signal switched as well. But I have no problem taking a trade like this because it's part of my playbook. Now, the long became part of the playbook also. So you got to take both trades. You can't just pick and choose if you're relying on the playbook, and then you manage your risk along the way. But yeah, these markets are strong.
Yeah. I mean, look at that break from last night. They really just balanced. I mean, look at that tight. Now we did get it a break. We've seen this, and actually, there's a nice little sell there. If you're, but that sell you could have lost well. I mean, but once it broke, obviously, once it broke out of that range, here we go again. London start lit the lit the fuse, and by the time the U.S. opened, it was off to the races again.
We did have jobless claims out today as well. Here is the 30-minute jobless claims candle. And if you didn't catch the trade from overnight, uh, there was some urgency in this jobless claims candle as well. If we frame out that 30-minute candle there, again, VWAP leaving the range fairly early. Uh, yeah, not much of a reason to sell this. Maybe if we go to a shorter time frame, but look at the pullbacks on the Nasdaq. Here's a 40-point pullback here, and we talked about this before. If you're a counter trend trader and you're shorting these markets, setting reasonable profit targets for shorts, if you're going to take them, is important. You could think, oh, the market's up too much, so I should short it. It's how a lot of accounts get blown, where you think something should happen based on an opinion, and the market does not care about that opinion. It actually welcomes that opinion because it needs, bad sellers in order to continue higher. So, if there was a counter trend trade, it was 50 points in less than 10 minutes, which is tough. You got to be really good to catch something like that. Um, these are the type of markets where you want to try to identify the flow. Right now, the flow is to the upside until it tells us different. And if you can't get in it, maybe just don't trade it at all, because it is difficult.
Yeah. Um, well, even if you're just trying to sell it, you can be wrong today. If you were selling it, you can be wrong today, but you have to limit it. And
Yep.
if you focus on your account by not blowing it up, you should not, like I'll say 12 to 15%. Stop and just stop, because I've been through that this time for sure.
Usually work out. Same story in the S&Ps, not very many pullbacks. We did get a couple of reversions to VWAP in the S&Ps. But again, market's making all-time highs. I'm probably not going to be the person that sells the high. Um, and I don't want to try to be, because uh, there's 1,000 times you can be wrong before you're right eventually. And hopefully
Yeah.
you got enough enough money left to trade at that point.
And
Um,
actually, if you think about it, if you're trading right, you should be long at the high. If you're right,
right.
or short at the low. Um, but it still had its choppy moments. Oh, that happens every day, right?
Happens every day. The market's not going to just go straight up and down. We had a little bit of consolidation, especially today where we have FOMC, which we were watching it on Topstep TV. Very muted response to that FOMC. I think the market kind of already expected what was going to happen. Normally in the Nasdaq, we see these crazy 200-point candles in a couple of minutes. We didn't get that today. Very muted response. Again, if we frame out the candle of the rate decision, it was about a 50-point candle. Market respected the range. It was pleasant to say the least. Uh, where Nasdaq can be very violent, aggressive, it wasn't like that today, which is different. Uh, very different. So, anything else on the equities, Coach? I'm gonna pull up the Dow real quick because I know the Dow recently has been making all-time highs as well. I just want to see. I think we made an all-time high in the Dow, 4402. 4420, 44,020 new all-time high in the Dow as well for all of our Dow traders.
Was that what? Is that the daily?
This is the daily. Yep.
Wow.
But this is the daily. This was yesterday. The Dow and the Russell
Yeah.
had some crazy days yesterday. Today, not so much, kind of,
Yeah.
consolidated. But after a 6% day, how much, are we going to keep running? Um, Potentially, but they took a break today.
Yeah, that was tiny range. That's why I had asked. I'm like, it's looked like something you might see on a 5-minute chart.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Uh, Ian Bellamy is saying, "How are you determining your zones?" Coach, I'm gonna throw that one to you. How do you determine your price zones that you're looking for potential trades?
I use a pivot system. It's based on the the previous day's high, low, and close. So basically the range. Um, you add them together, divide them by 3, and you get a pivot. From that pivot, um, using some other math, you look for probable support and resistance, and it changes its dynamic. I don't want to bore you with the math here, but with those levels, the main one to me I look for is the pivot. Is it holding the pivot? Is VWAP over the pivot? It's a healthy buy. If I want to buy it, it's below the pivot and VWAP's below the pivot. I'm probably not going to go with it. I'm not going with strength. Um, but when it starts going through the first, gets up to the second resistance level or support level, what I won't do is establish a trade at that point. Like if it's
Makes
up at
sense.
the second level resistance, and oh man, this could go up to the
Too
third
extended.
level of too extended. Um, Otherwise known as price discovery. We'll go into that someday. We'll go through that. But as we've talked, if if it matches up with VWAP or volume, it has a lot more opportunity. If it's away from that, then I know that if I'm long, I can look to take shorts and see this area. I don't use it specifically. I wait for it to get there and pinpoint a buy and sell. It's an area.
Thank you for that. And for me, how am I identifying zones? I'm usually looking at a 30-minute chart, looking at some type of volume, and then marking that out as a zone, right? If we would just to do this as a quick example, I'm looking at 30-minute chart here. Here's a pretty big volume spike here. This was yesterday's open. I might mark out something like that. We have a close, and then I'll go 30-minute down to a shorter time frame, usually a 3-minute, and then try to find some type of anomaly in volume, and then marking those out as a zone. Why am I doing it that way? Because if high volume traded at a specific area, I want to know what the market's reaction is if and when we get back to those areas. Uh, but thank you for that, Coach. Uh, let's move on to gold. Gold had a pretty strong sell off yesterday. Let's pull up a daily chart to start. And we retraced about 50%, if not a little more, of that move. I pull up a daily chart, Coach. Here are huh, what's that purple line?
We talked about it yesterday, and we wicked again. It's interesting with that gold that they waited for the Fed announcement before they bought or
Yep.
short covering before the buying took over. So once again, in this situation, when we look at levels, I'm not looking to get short gold in that area. That's why
Yeah.
I'll use it.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. Um, Now, looking at the daily, we come into and I look at the half an hour next. Boy, that looks hmm, didn't have a trade for me. Now, if we're looking at the flow of the day, where was the highest volume?
Highest volume on the day was this candle that tested the 50-day moving average. Uh, this one right here on the 30-minute chart. Looks what chart was that? Was that copper?
Yeah, yep.
Where copper had that that kind of indecision hammer candle. Doesn't look exactly the same, obviously, on gold, but same idea, right? Heavy volume into these lows, and once we get a close above that, uh, that was pretty much it.
Let's anchor a VWAP to that.
And that is not the market open, but we can do same idea, right? Market open
Uh,
would be somewhere up here,
yeah.
but we're paying attention to this volume, and you know I'd almost give more credence to the volume over arbitrary
That's
time.
absolutely. Absolutely, because the volume means there's the what think about that's where the action, that's where money's being. If you just don't think price, it's there's action there. That means there's put it another way, there's bets there. If we look at from a poker point of view, you know, it's anteed up. We got skin in the game here.
Yep.
How is it going to react from that point? Well, it didn't make a new low. So if I was a seller there, every time I see a higher high, higher low in that little range, I'm not I'm not feeling comfortable. But from another perspective, I'm looking for a place to buy it. We know we hit the 50-day moving average. We wicked. I can buy it when it breaks out. I can buy it against VWAP and the 50, or I could just buy it and say it's not going to make a new low. And if it does, fine. I'm willing to take that risk. But on the other side, if I sold it and I see that volume and it can't get any lower, I'm not. I'm. I have reason to cut that trade short and stay away. Actually, I would just say, I'm going to try and sell again if it makes a new low. But we talk about you get new information, and and that information, I can almost just feel it looking at that chart, going, oh God, it's just, it's like I'm slowly drowning. Excuse me. So, actually, nice trade on a buy. On the sell side, good place to take a small loss.
Uh, Similar here, right? Like you said, coach, you would sell it if you made a new low. Let's look at something like this, right? Where we have the same idea, high volume on this candle here. Uh, we see sellers getting absorbed at these lows. We get a bounce, and once we break the low of this candle, we get that acceleration of the move. So same idea here, right? There are some sellers in here. If price was to get back down here, do they step in again and push price lower? Maybe, but this on this attempt they got absorbed, right? And when sellers are not getting what they want, eventually they have to become buyers, and maybe covering some shorts there.
Yeah.
Could have been
Here's
could have been short covering volume in this as well.
Yeah, that could have been it. Here's another thing is what happened after the big volume and the big candle? Smaller candles. Think about that. No, that's another sign in there. So I imagine the average true range started melting, going down. So it, it's just, yeah, slowly going lower and lower. So the range is going down after a big sell and a big volume event. There's no follow again. Another word for all that language is no follow through selling.
Nice bounce, closing around 27.15, kind of where, we just marked out this higher volume up here, where we started the sell-off. So if I'm trading gold tomorrow, what happens around these prices? We closed inside of this range where we saw sellers coming in. So now I'd be looking at, do we build a little bit of support here at this 27.10s, and then continue the yearly rally into the end of the year? Uh, I think we closed. Yep, closed under the 20 moving average, which is at 27.31 right now, right at the high of that range we were talking about.
Yeah.
So will be interesting. Looks a lot like the equities charts, right? If we go back to the ES, did exactly this, right? Check the 50-day moving average, said, okay, we're good, and continued. So does gold do exactly the same? Uh, we will find out on the
We
next
shall
episode
see. Yeah.
of Dragon Ball Z. Let's go to crude oil. Have you been
Yeah,
looking at crude much, Coach?
yeah, I traded it today. I get it. Saw a nice buy after the opening. Um, we frame out that there's the volume of the buy volume for the U.S. Open.
Here, let me go. That was a daily chart there. Let me go down
Got
to a.
the
Which
eight
candle are you
o'clock.
looking at, Coach? 8
Oh, the
o'clock.
8 o'clock
Okay,
or eight
got you.
o'clock Central.
Yep.
Um, Jumbled mess there, as crude often is. Um, but look at that candle. There wasn't that a bigger sense of urgency because we crude is like acts like the Nasdaq lately. It shakes everywhere. Um, but as we saw that it was good buying on the opening for half an hour that held. Um, we broke out cleanly when we closed over the the opening range and above the VWAP. VWAP also left the range. Um, that was a nice trade. Um, I got in it early. I wanted to buy. I saw that candle. I had my stop in. Um,
Where was your stop on that one, Coach?
New lows of the day.
Got you. So right below 20, 70, 63.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Really nice trade.
Yeah, I took some heat, relative heat, but it goes back to this. This isn't, how many times you put a trade on and where there's not any kind of heat,
Mm,
even a little bit.
yeah.
Um, we talk about it. Be willing to take that risk, or don't take the trade. Anyway, once the I don't know what got into it. I know what got into it. Buyers were in a hurry. There was more buying this, especially that when it broke out. Look at the volume. For a day trade, actually, I waited for it. It kept on making higher highs. But up at the top, isn't that a 3 bar reversal?
It is on the 30-minute chart. Yeah, we pushed into 73s, couldn't hit it. High of the day, 72.88. Got a 3-bar reversal on the 30-minute. Um, let's look what it looked like on a shorter time frame. Uh, looking at a 5-minute, because I meant to hit 3, but I hit 5, so we'll stick with the 5. Uh, but we got a 3-bar reversal there as well. And there are times, Coach, where I think we try to preempt these 3-bar reversals. I'm guilty of it. I know Dakota's guilty of it as well. We say it all the time when we're on Topstep TV. It's like, oh, it looks like a 3-bar reversal, but we're gonna take it. I think this is a perfect example of not having to preempt it, and maybe needing a little bit of patience. But this is, to me, this candle here is the confirmation of a 3-bar reversal, right? We made the high, and then we closed under the candle that made the high. I don't know if that's actually what we would consider a 3-bar reversal, but that's what I'm going to consider one. Um, then look what happens afterwards, right? The candle that makes the high, this is where we're limiting our risk, and you can enter anywhere in here. Ideally, for me, I'm going to try to get an entry as close as possible to 50% of this. But waiting for that confirmation, because let's see, here's another example of what could have been one. 1, 2, 3. Technically, we got to close under here. Now I'm curious, Coach. What would you consider a 3-bar reversal? A close under the second candle or the first one?
To me, close under both.
Both. There you go.
And a close. And this is important. We've talked about it before. Just the price alone, I
Yep.
won't do it
Yeah.
because what do you get when you get a close?
Confirmation.
Confirmation. Um, for those people who get wicked out a lot in places like that, I have one suggestion: just wait for a close. Rarely does it just go right, especially on those. Think about it. But one thing I do like to have, and we didn't get it in this case, is some kind of volume.
Yeah. We
Um,
didn't get one.
but it's still there. Um, but look, this time when it closed under all that, one way we can look at it is the short-term buyers were getting out, or longer-term sellers were getting were selling it. Um, I don't know, how do we see it by the action? It just died out.
Sellers coming in, just lack of buying. Kind of floated lower into the close. Nice trade though, coach. Nice trade. Like you said, you got in it a little bit early, but I think you knew exactly what you were looking for. Volume agreed with you. Just had to catch up. You were an innovator. You were buying it before it was cool to do, and you got paid for it.
Yeah,
Um, let's
you
get to
know,
some questions. Go ahead.
I got so much riz that it just it oozes from me.
Not a word I expected to come out of you, coach, but I know
Oh,
you got
yeah,
grandkids, so
I got
keeping them
grandkids, and
young.
I coach youth.
There you go. There you go. Coach with the Riz. Um, let's get to some of
Well,
these
there's the
questions. Go ahead.
actually, uh, my grandson, who's like 5 years old, uses that word. I'm not
Does he really?
kidding you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's the internet. It's the internet.
And
You know,
he
kids
calls me,
from
he goes, "Hey, bro." I'm
it's,
like, "What was that?" Yeah,
it is the internet.
it
Kids
is the
from
internet.
5 to 18 are all on the same internet, which is a crazy place. But funny, funny for sure. Let's go. We got a question from Shubham. I earn most of the time, but what I am noticing is once I make a buffer, I start taking bets sometimes due to FOMO, and at last close at near to break even. This is happening with me these days. Shubham, what's happening is you're probably getting overconfident when you see results that are going in your favor. Um, Understand that no trade should have any bearing over the next one or the one prior to it. Each trade is its own thing, uh, and deserves the same process that you know the last trade had, right? So if you see things really well, you read the market really well, you take a trade and you get the result that you're looking for. Um, and when I say result that you're looking for, that doesn't mean a winning trade. That means it either hit your stop and it was a great placement, or it hit your profit target, great placement. Do the same thing with the next trade, right? If you are starting to just scale up because one trade went well, that is letting the emotions take over your trade. Go ahead, coach.
Absolutely. Um, FOMO leads to overtrading. It's just simple as that. Um, Stick to your process. Um, Keep it simple, right? Um, the more we overanalyze, more we trade, the more decisions we have to make, the worse we do. Um, I would suggest to hone your process, write it down, keep it as simple as 4 steps. It seems to me that FOMO comes from overthinking, over trading.
What do you think about this only happening after being up on the day, right? Starting
Agreed.
to scale up or take more trades only because you're up on the day. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Now, if you and I don't know your process. If this like, but you're saying the results are ending up, you're giving it all away, right? I understood that right. Then that is classic over trading. Part of that is greed. You want to make more and more. This is the one. I've done that one. If I just put more on, and if it goes up there, then I'm past the combine. Um, That's not a plan. Get
Shubham says in the chart, I don't scale as in, adding contracts, but I'm taking bigger stop losses. What's happening is you're telling yourself, so let's say you have a personal daily loss limit of $500, right? And then you make 2 grand on the day. What you're doing is saying, well, now I have $2,500 worth of drawdown. Don't do that. If you always risk all of the house money and then your personal daily loss limit, you're never going to make any progress, right? At some point, you got to secure some of it. So if you want to continue to trade because you see good trade setups, some of the profit that you took, and maybe it's just the $500 that is your normal daily personal daily loss limit, right? So I made 2 grand. I'm only going to risk what my personal daily loss limit naturally is, kind of like a trailing drawdown for yourself. If I lose what my personal daily loss limit is, or some percentage of that, then I have to cut it off, because you're never going to make progress that way, right? You're going to, start building up your sandcastle and then stomp on it right away. Um,
I've never heard it put that way. Can I use that one?
Sometimes, Coach, I told you I used to write songs, so sometimes I just freestyle things. I hope they come out good. So
Cool.
I'm freestyling analogies sometimes, but yeah, that's exactly what it is, right? You're building your sandcastle, and on the way to get water to secure it, you're stomping on it. So don't do that, right? Build up a cushion and say that I'm going to protect a certain part of it. Um,
It's a great example. Yeah,
Delicious. Go ahead.
you could said another great phrase there. Play with house money. Don't. I mean, I would just say if instead of trade, just get out.
Yep.
Stop trading. If you've reached your 2 to 1 or your goal, if you're staring at the screen after that, you're going. There's a high probability you're going to be lured into another trade. And mm, this one, oh, I like this one. I've seen this one before. Nope. This is what I mean by a 4-step plan. A 4-step plan eliminates the demons in your emotional um consciousness. Like I watched the show about the brain and sleepwalking. Have you ever seen anyone sleepwalk, coach?
I used to do it when I was younger,
Oh,
actually.
you remember sleepwalking?
No, but I used to, like, my parents would tell me all the time, like, you just got up in the middle of the night and just kind of walking around the house, would like
Yeah.
go to the front door and stuff like that. I never remember doing it, but I was told that I used to do it as a kid.
Yeah, that's what some crazy stuff. A woman painted diamond at the big diamond on her living room wall while she was asleep.
Wow.
So I thought about that sometimes when we make trades based on emotions. It's like, and then you get back to it and you look like, who did that? Right? They're
Yeah.
not making so without a plan, a specific 4-step plan, whatever it is that you check, and in that plan is your risk management. You're going to be lured in by just your subconscious mind with no control. It struck me. It's like when I review some trades when I was really struggling. I'm like,
Who was clicking that button?
yeah, I'm going to define it as sleepwalking. Like we do that conscious in our unconsciously. Like, okay, oh yeah, I got to get in. I know. I'll just put this on, and then there's no rhyme or reason to it except for I'd imagine your subconscious mind, emotional mind just goes, okay, um, fuck it, let's just do it. Um,
Subconscious, coach, we talked about, I don't know if we talked about this on air or if this was one of the conversations you and I have once we usually get on here, but that idea of that subconscious kind of taking over with the interest of alleviating the pressure that is trading, right? And sometimes you just start clicking buttons because it's going to relieve the pressure, right? If I just blow this account, I don't have to be in the middle of the ring and worry about offense and defense. I can just get a reset and start it all over again. Um,
Yeah, and
so you don't
and
make
that's
progress that way.
you don't. So you know, you have to have a plan. If a if a general is going to fight a battle, he has to have a plan, right? God help us if he doesn't have a plan. If you're on that side of the war, in that plan, you have to have supplies. You have to have, it has to be planned out. You can't just sleepwalk into it. Every trade should have a plan. Plan your trade and trade your plan.
There's a question from here from Mark Sky Stocks. And Mark, I'm going to read this out, but I think I get what you're saying here. Do you believe that a trader who chokes trades over time increases the probability of a runner and gives them a larger profit ratio than letting the first stop hit to start out negatively? No, I don't think so, actually. I think a trader who is consistently choking their trades and, moving their stops up too quickly is afraid of taking a loss and more than likely prone to taking profits as soon as they present them to themselves and rarely ever catching a runner because you're not giving the market the space that it needs to breathe, right? So I think establishing a stop in a place that makes sense for the market structure and not based on your account is the first way to say, you know what, I'm going to let the market do what it needs to do. And then that's on both sides, right? That's for profit and for your stop loss. I think if you're consistently, taking off the trade before the market has any chance to even go towards a profit target, you're rarely ever going to catch a runner on a trade. What do you think about that, Coach?
If you're doing that, you're not confident in your trade.
Yep.
You don't have a plan, or you're not sticking to a plan. So your decision making is being led by fear of giving back profit or losing. We talked about this a little the other day. One of the big measurements that's isn't wholly apparent is cutting off winners. It's just as bad as letting losses ride. So go back. Most of those decisions are based and you really don't trust your process, right?
Um, I think personally, the best way to manage a trade for myself is to trade multiple contracts. And if that means, I can't trade minis, I need to trade micros and just scale out of a position where I'm securing some profits. We did it on the house account trade in crude oil yesterday. It was only a 3 contract short, but after the trade moved in the profit, I'm taking one off because one in that trade, we can pull it up. I had what I thought was a reasonable profit target. We got short at 72.13, and the profit target for the trade for the entire move was 71.50. Uh, so if I'm looking at this, 72.13 down to 71.50, there is 86 ticks available. So when we get down to about 40 ticks, and I think the first one we took off was 71.80. So about 60 ticks. I'm not taking the full position off because I don't want to have to try to find another way to get in this move if I think there's more room. But I want to secure some profits along the way, right? So I'm going to take part of the position off, secure some of the profits, kind of alleviate that feeling of, oh man, this is going to turn into a complete loser. Um, then drag the stop in from there. But something we don't talk about a lot, coaches, is trade management, where a lot of times we're focusing on entries and exits, but the management decisions that you can make, especially if you're giving yourself the opportunity to trade multiple contracts with trading micros, can change your trading, right? Where you don't have to make an entry decision each and every time, right? It's not a good feeling to have a trade. And we talked about it, coach. It's not a good feeling to have a trade that's in the drawdown, and most of our trades are going to be in drawdown. So to have to uh, experience that every time you put on a trade, like, oh man, what's the drawdown going to be on this one, can be a little bit too much. So I like to manage my trades with multiple positions, scaling in and out.
Great example, coach. Two things on that too. I'll quote you when we were talking about you have to give your trade room. You said forget about the breathing aspects. Give your trade room to breathe. If you're over leveraged, you have too big um, of risk on, then you first two things aren't going to happen. You're not giving it room to breathe, and you're going to stop breathing. I don't want to complete. You're going to. That's what freezing is in sports, right? They always say hey, just breathe, breathe, breathe easy, um, because when you're tight, your breathing gets constricted. Same in a trade like that because now you're nervous. So I agree with instead of doing a big one, if you can do let's say 4 micros instead of 10 like you and it's easier to manage. You got room to breathe. And then there's the concept of management. In Vegas, there's a common strategy in blackjack to play with house money. Professionals do it all the time. Don't just so when you get when you get a chance to play with house money, you can put it on. And wow, now you're really breathing, and then you don't have to make these sudden knee jerk decisions, which are basically you didn't really want to take the risk. You just want to make the money. So something to review.
Conversation here, Coach. We got about 8 minutes left. Anything on your scouting report going into tomorrow?
Um, Bitcoin, buying Bitcoin again. Just it was a good rally. We had that break on the close, but overall, that daily looks solid in an uptrend. Um,
Looks a lot. What chart was that we looked at?
that looks
The
like the
Dow.
Dow.
Yeah, looks a
Bring
lot
the
like the
Dow
Dow.
up next to it. Wow, there it was. I told you. Remember we talked about it's going to start trading like a stock.
Yeah, it's trading like all of them. It's like a combination of them all. Here is the Dow on the right side, micro Bitcoin on the left side. And yeah, very similar, right? Had this big up move yesterday, kind of hanging out at the top of that move today. Uh, and
Yeah,
very strong markets. I don't want to put my indicators back on here, but
yeah. So that looking to buy it. Um, I'm not a wild-eyed um, Bitcoinist, cryptoist. I just look for opportunity. Um, so that to me is, I think it's a prime place to get a. If I see any kind of urgency, I'm putting it on. How about you, Coach?
I think I'm going to look at Bitcoin as well. Outside of that, I don't think I have anything. I don't think I have anything. Um, oh, copper, copper. Copper has been presenting some really nice trades over the past couple of days, so I'll be looking at copper tonight. It is in this range that it's kind of been in. Um, well, we had this chop range. We see the ATR is starting to increase on the daily. So if we continue to get some big moves out of copper like this, I want to try to catch one of those. So I'll be looking at copper tonight, see if it gives us an urgency setup.
Boy, I would also that high from 2 days ago. If it gets above that, it'll be higher than that. Yeah.
Goes up, it'll
No,
be higher.
it's got potential
Yeah.
to ignite. But wow, what a
Uh, was increasing. Um,
yeah.
so
I
I,
mean,
I
this isn't going to stay in this range.
no, no.
uh, Interesting. What does silver look like on a daily? I haven't looked at that lately. It looks a lot like copper. Boy, hmm. Still in an uptrend. It's in and up. There's the 200 daily. Um, I'm not looking on the south side, but interesting chart.
Agreed. Kevin K says, I'm making him realize that you need a fade. Uh, go hit up your barber. my barber was talking about prices potentially going up next year. So try to get as many haircuts as I can before the price goes up. But
Well, I don't have that problem. I
right,
when I did have that problem, I said, my hair was receding, and I told my barber, I'm like, "Do I get a discount here? You're not doing as much work." He goes, "No, I'm going to charge you a finder's fee." So yeah, I don't have that problem anymore.
Coach, we got about 5 minutes left. I'm looking up some notes, but I want to ask you. We are, in the prop firm space, coaches at Topstep. What I consider, and this is not just an endorsement of Topstep because I work with them, but I've traded at other prop firms as well, right? Just to kind of test them out. And I think Topstep is, and this is not just my opinion, but a leader in this space. Talking about a little bit of the news and kind of in the prop space right now. Obviously, if you guys haven't seen it already, FTT, fast track trading, looks like they shut down today. I don't know if you saw that, Coach, but FTT was
No,
one
I
of
didn't.
the ones that was, um, you know, came up with the idea of straight to funding. And there's been some questions, and the only reason I'm bringing this up because there's been some questions about Top Step going straight to funding, and some red flags. I just want to talk to everyone here, and again, I- I'm here at TopStep representing TopStep, and we would love everyone here to be on TopStep accounts. But we know that there are traders who are going to experiment and go other places. Just be safe when you're doing that. Be careful with chasing the shiny object, because sometimes when you finally get it in your hand, you realize that it's shiny on the outside, and not so much on the inside. Be careful with things like that, right? There's traders who were, eligible for payouts and are never getting that money. They traders could have signed up for multiple accounts, and those accounts were not cheap, and you don't get that money back, right? So go somewhere reputable. If it's not here, find somewhere that you can trust, and you can honestly trust as much as you can see, right? Trust as much as you can see in front of you, and use your discretion about the decisions that you make in this space because there are as many good actors as there are, and I believe that you're here with one at Top Step. There are people who are trying to take advantage of this industry as well, and I kind of hate to see that. So be safe with that, Coach. You got anything on that?
No, I didn't know about that, but I will tell you this. If fast track trading,
Name
FTT,
itself.
okay, there's no fast track. Instant funding. Y- y- Let's
Instant
say,
funding is a brokerage account.
yeah. Um, Here, and I'll just give my view on this. This is a place to learn how to trade at a very low entry level. You've heard it from Mike Batak. You'll hear it from me. The tuition is steep in trading, whether it's futures, options. Um, the price and the reputation that Top Step has is why I'm here. Um, and instant, you know, the instant gratification is what it is. It's lightning in a bottle.
The disease.
It's all it is. Um, you've heard us say it before. Um, you have to learn a process, develop a process, execute a process. Otherwise, it's gambling. So, you know, also, there I can make an argument if you're wealthy enough to buy a certain percentage of your assets and buy lottery tickets. It- But that doesn't give you a skill and it doesn't last long. So I didn't know that. I'm sorry to hear that anybody was been taking advantage of that. But how many we have what over 70,000 users. It's been around for 14 years. It's um so
One of the most transparent places that I've worked with, which is great to see. And again, trust but verify everything that you see and hear on the internet. But be very careful in this space. And I think what you just said, Coach, even if you're here, right, even if you are here at Topstep and you haven't even tried out some of these other places, that instant gratification kind of chase uh, shows up here with traders here as well. So I think that's the overall message, right? Don't try to chase the shiny object, whether it's somewhere else or even here in your own trading, trying to get to things quickly. Develop a process that is going to be sustainable over time, and that's the way to find some type of success with doing this. So I'm going to end it with that. Actually, I was supposed to look up my notes and I never did. So, Coach, you got any final words before we go? And then if not,
No,
I'll close it
get to
out.
your notes.
All right, cool. So pulling up my notes here, I want to thank everyone for joining today. Lighter audience than normal, but I think FOMC and the presidential election probably wore some people out. But hit that like button if you haven't done so already. And if you haven't, I'm going to call Mohammed um, and get him in here.
Or play that song.
Right. Oh, yeah. Muhammad got his own theme song now, which is pretty cool. If you are a small business owner, send us your gear. We're looking for traders who also own a small business. Maybe if you have hats, shirts, coasters, potentially anything like that. If you want to send it to the Topstep team, get a little bit of promo on Topstep TV. At any given point, there's somewhere from the 200 we have here currently to 6,000 sometimes watching. So just to promo your business, I just put the link in the chat for that. So fill that out. Send us some information on your business if you are a small business owner. Shout out to MP for mentioning that on Top Step TV the other day. Just another example of trying to help the community. What does MP get from doing that? Nothing. But he's promoting the traders that we have here, which I think again just speaks to the community that we have here. And then Coach Dakota doing Top Step Labs. Top Step Labs, he's going to be doing next week a 2-hour Q&A with a bunch of traders. I think it's 20 total. To get into that group, you're going to need to tune into Slow Markets, which is at 7:30 Central Time. And he's going to be dropping a form. He dropped the first one yesterday. Dropping a form for you to fill out, then randomly selecting 20 traders to do a Q&A with Coach Dakota. So make sure you tune into that as well. Remember, we got classes in Discord, Coach Hoop at 4:30 Central Time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Coach Ray and Coach Vince at 6 p.m. and 7. But thank you, everyone. Coach, thank you as always.
Thank you, and have a great evening or morning wherever you are.
Have a great one. We will catch you all tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.